Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're ready because I've got my book. So, shall we? As always, if you don't remember where we were, I suggest you watch the previous video. It's good for the old view account. Analysing international transactions. And yes, I did read that right. If transactional analysis makes it possible for two persons to understand what is going on between them, can the same language be used to understand what is going on between nations? As with individuals, the transactions between nations can be complementary only if the factors on the transactional diagram are parallel. Adult-to-adult transactions are the only complementary transactions which will work in the world today in view of the self-emergence and self-determination of even the smallest nations. What once was a workable parent-child relationship between large and smaller countries is no longer complementary. Smaller countries are growing up, do not want to be the child anymore. To their sometimes bitter criticisms we respond, how can they throw us away after all we have done for them? This is a reference to empires, by the way. You know, the empires that conquer small places and say, look what we've done for you, even though really they're not. You can pretty much look at any empire, it's like that. They conquer small places, exploit them, then they say, you're a bunch of ungrateful people, aren't you? Look at all we've done. Then they get surprised when the small nation's like, we want to be on our own. Still, that's life. I don't think it's a reference to any particular because they pretty much all do the same. You all do. One of the most hopeful institutions for the analysis of international transactions is the United Nations. It has survived many cross transactions. When the premier of a major nation pounds his shoe on the table, communication stops. When we are told that they will bury us, that's a reference to Nikita Khrushchev, by the way, who done his famous "We will bury you" speech to the United Nations. Apparently he didn't quite mean it like that, but these things happen. It hooks our child, but we do not have to respond with our child, nor do we have to respond with our sword-rattling parent, and therein lies the possibility of change. One has to tell a little child over and over again, I love you, but one I hate you is all there is needed for a lifelong negation of any further loving parental advances. Yep, that's true. You can use the same words with adults as well. If you're an age of someone, you can tell them you love them a million times and that will be nice. The moment you say I hate you, that's it. All gone. Then again, if you're going to tell someone you hate them, then it's probably for the best, and chances are you thought that anyway. So, that's on you. If the little person could understand where the I hate you came from, how the child and his parent has been provoked to such an unreasoned and destructive display to a little child he really cherished, then that little child would not have had to hang on to this pronouncement as ultimate truth. So it is with the "we will bury you" statement of Nikita Khrushchev, told you so. Although it was a rather nasty statement and promoted nothing constructive for his country or anyone else's, it may take some of the sting out of it to remember he was only a human being with a parent, adult and child, the content of which is different from the parent, adult and child of anyone else, particularly that of American statesmen. Proof that he was not a political super being is the fact that he himself now is buried. Politically, that is. Obviously he was still alive when his book was written. It does not take much historical research to uncover equally blundering statements and actions by leaders of other countries, including our own. We must learn to respond to statements and actions of others, not with collective frightened, ready-to-fight child, but with our adult, which can seek out the truth, see the fear in the child of others for what it is, and comprehend the pain they feel from a cultural parent which dictates absolutes no longer working in the interest of the survival of mankind. We must be able to stand off at arm's length and view our American cultural parent. There is much greatness in that parent, but there is also much wickedness, as in the cancerous evil of slavery, which confronts us now in the murderous faces of racial bigots, both black and white. Alton Trueblood writes, in our present predicament, we seem like chess players who have been manoeuvred in positions in which all of the available moves are really damaging ones. We begin to see dimly that what is occurring in part is a terrible working of moral law, but this is hard for us to believe or to understand. The resentment of Asians seems unreasoned and unjustified, and it is unjustified. We are concerned only with temporary events, but what we are now reaping is a delayed harvest. Every white man who violated in years past the principle of the innate dignity of every human being by saying boy to a Chinese man was helping to build up the fierce hatred which finally has burst upon us with such apparent unreason, at the very time that we are trying to maintain a lofty principle at great sacrifice to ourselves. I hope you're listening to this, people. I really do. Another way of stating this moral law is that if one humiliates a child in another person long enough, it will turn into a monster. It should not surprise us that endless years of humiliation have produced many monsters in America who terrify us. An African American woman, after the Watts riot in Los Angeles, responded to all the profuse explanations of why Watts, and that's Watts, W-A-T-T-S, by the way, a place, I presume. Admittedly, I'm not American, so I don't really know much about what I presume is part of the civil rights movement. So let's start this sentence again, shall we? An African American woman, after the Watts riot in Los Angeles, responded to all the profuse explanations of why Watts happened, i.e. police action, unemployment, poverty, etc., by saying, they have to ask why, then they will never know. I think we would all know why if our terrified child and our self-righteous parent were not crowding out the adult. What to do is another thing. I think we must start by adopting a common language which applies to human behaviour, and I feel we have this language in transactional analysis. Psychology is heralded as the great science of the modern day, yet it has had very little to say which makes sense regarding our present social struggles. To the question of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, another expert in the field of behaviour and communications responded, I'm out of my depth. I feel I'm very liable to make a damn fool of myself. This virtuous display of modesty does not override the fact that those who claim insight into human behaviour ought to have something to say about relationships with people of other countries. It is my hope that Senator Fulbright and all of our public officials may receive something more helpful from the psychiatric community. I feel that an understanding of parent, adult, child and the possibility of the emancipation of the adult in government leaders and voters alike would make one of the greatest contributions to an understanding of the social and world problems that confront us. By understanding the hold the parent has on us, our own personal parent reinforced by cultural event, by understanding the terror in our own child in the face of rioting and war, in the people of India victimised by starvation and superstition, in the people of Russia in the memory of chains and insurrection, in the people of Israel reflecting on the most recent murder of 6 million Jews. You can tell this hasn't aged too well, but gotta remember, people, okay? This was written in the 60s. I think it was. Let's see if I can quickly find it. See if I can find a year of copyright quickly. It was. See, first published. Actually, I think it was published in. So it's the first published date was 73. So he probably wrote this late 60s, early 70s. Well, the first draft was probably the early 60s. Or late 60s, I should say. So this would have been long before 1967, long before other bad things happened. Where was I? Oh, yes. I'm not going to get into plots, people, so. But I think we all know. In the people of Vietnam, north or south, in the fear of napalm and bayonets, in the people of Japan remembering the A-bomb. If we can begin to see this child as a little human being in a world full of terror, wanting only the release from pain, then perhaps our international conversations would begin to sound a little different. Longfellow suggested that if we could read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each man's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. We cannot be sympathetic with the not okay child in our enemies because we are terrified of the games they play to deny the position, and they cannot be sympathetic to us for the same reason. We share the dilemma of mistrust. Everywhere men want to negotiate but only on their own special terms. We become major champions of minor issues because we have cut off too many options in dealing with the major issues. We may acknowledge our mutual fear, but we do not know what to do about it. Persons involved in international conversations knew the language of parent, adult, child. They could share the knowledge that the fear is in the child, that there is no way to agree through the parent, and only through the emancipation of the adult can the universal "I'm not okay" you're okay position be overcome, though we might begin to see the possibility of solutions beyond the limiting influences of the past. The basic words are transactional analysis, parent, adult, child, not okay, okay, games and stroking, as you remember were mentioned in previous chapters, are so simple that even if it were not possible to translate them into all other languages, they could be used as they are, with definitions in the words of those languages. Okay is already an international word. Parent, adult and child could also become international words. Now that we have a concept for understanding human behaviour that all persons can comprehend, one which can be put into simple words and translated into any language, we may be arriving at a point where we can discard our archaic fears, based on the tragedies of the past, and begin talking with one another in the only way agreement on anything will be possible. Adult to adult. With the adult, we can look together some of the age-old hang-ups, unexamined phrases, close our options and our hopes for living together on an I'm okay, you're okay basis. For instance, how far can we get in world diplomacy if we continue to use a closed language with such neatly sealed phrases as godless communism, the free west, in irreconcilable conflict? Even the phrase world communism, which conjures up such horrors that we are willing to continue to fight war after war at fantastic cost, is due for examination. How many wars will we have to fight? Is there an end in sight? Is world communism possible? Are all communists godless? What is a communist? Has he changed in the past 50 years? Are all communists alike? Now, this is bringing up some points, which I'm going to, granted it's within the context of, this was barely. One thing to remember is that this book was written pretty much during the height of the Cold War, not long after the Cuban Missile Crisis, for a good period of time, it was possible that everyone in the world was just going to die from nuclear bombs. But the thing to remember is, if you don't know this already, I will tell you, people all over the world are pretty much the same. Most of us have similar hopes and aspirations. We want to take care of our loved ones. We want our children to be safe and to do better than we have. Doesn't matter whether you live in a democratic society, a communist society, a theocratic society, you all want your children to have something better than what you had. Obviously there are exceptions, but we're talking about the majority of people. In the day, we're all the same. The only difference is we come to different conclusions. The thing about communism is that although technically communist governments haven't always done good things, it's worth trying to understand why people in those countries were drawn to it in the first place. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of it all because I only know little bits, but read it yourself and you'll understand why people come to certain conclusions that they do. Okay? Back to the book. There are 3 billion persons in the world. We're double that now, I think. We know very little of these persons as individuals. We scarcely think of them as individuals. For instance, do we see a country like India only as a fast, nondescript blur of too many people whose importance is only in the way it shifts in the international balance of power in our fight against world communism? Worth noting that at this point India was part of the non-aligned movement. They looked at the Cold War and said, this is stupid, let's just be friendly to everyone. And so they didn't really get involved. In fact, the world would probably be a nicer place if no one really got involved in those stupid arguments. Well, I will carry on. Or can we see India as a nation far more complicated, with real persons who make up 1/7 of the world's population, whose country contains 6 distinct ethnic groups, 845 languages and dialects, 7 major religions and 2 hostile cultures. Not sure what that means, last bit means, but carry on. Actually, if there's anything worth saying, you'll see a little thing on the screen now. If I can find something on it, that is. If the Indian parent and the American parent cannot agree on anything, can we see the possibility of the excitement of the discovery of mutual concerns and shared joys through the emancipation of the adult? We are related to one another, and we are persons and not things. The people of the world are not things to be manipulated, but persons to know. Not heathens to be proselytized, that means converted to the religion of the missionary's choice, that is. Proselytized. It's a fancy way of saying converting someone to a religion. but persons to be heard. Not enemies to be hated, but persons to be encountered. Not brothers to be kept, but brothers to be brothers. That's kind of nice. Impossible. Naive. In an affluent society whose members are conditioned to believe that one man's problems cannot be resolved without taking the time of another man, trained 3 to 5 years in psychoanalysis after medical school and internship for a period of thousands of hours over a period of several years, the thought of a solution to the needs of 3 billion people in crisis seems desperately absurd. The parent says, there will always be wars and rumours of wars. The child says, eat, drink and be merry for tomorrow we die. History tells us what has been, but it cannot tell us what must be or cannot be. This is an open and evolving universe, and we do not know enough about that universe to say what can't happen. Only the adult can go to work on this exciting idea, and the adult has creative power. The adult can recognise the child responses in others, but can choose not to respond in kind. The United States, for instance, cannot have its way all the time. Robert Hutchins writes at this point in an article about the role of the United States. Let us admit the malevolence of China, the implacability of North Vietnam, the hostility of the Soviet Union, the eccentricity of de Gaulle and the instability of the undeveloped world. Let us remember at the same time that we live under the threat of thermonuclear incineration. What is the proper role of the United States in world affairs? What is the right and wise policy for it to follow? We are victims not of the wickedness of others, that is a paranoid view, but of our own mistakes and delusions. This is not to deny that others are wicked. Of course they are. What we have to do is to avoid wickedness ourselves. Offer an example of magnanimous and intelligent power and organise the world to curb the inevitable wickedness we shall find at home and abroad. See, what this person's saying is, those countries are bad, but our country is bad too because we've done bad things. As have they. Granted, countries will do bad, most countries have done bad things, but obviously some do it on bigger scales than others, but other countries have done bad things too. Especially during the Cold War. That was a time when shitty things were done on a massive scale. But I shall carry on reading. The American myth seems to me to be grounded in the we're okay, you're not okay position. We're okay by virtue of our sentimental recollections of Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine and Abraham Lincoln. We think of ourselves in our best images, but caricature the opposition. Thomas Merton, in writing about today's angry world, asks, what will we do when we finally have to realise that we are locked out of the lone prairie and thrust forth into a world of history, along with all the Asians, Hispanics and Polish people? In case you're wondering, they've used old derogatory terms for those people, which I'm choosing not to use. That we are just as much a part of history as all the rest of them. That is the end of the American myth. We can no longer lean out from a higher and rarefied atmosphere and point down from the firmament to the men on earth to show them the patterns of our ideal republic. We are in the same mess with all the rest of them. Shall we turn our backs on all that? Shall we open another can of beer and flip the switch and find our way back to the familiar mesquite, where all problems are easily solved, where the good guys are always the straight shooters and they always win? Shooting straight and winning are glorified in America by good, honest, God-fearing people who slow of foot and dull of vision wonder why violence now saturates the land. After the murder of Robert Kennedy, Arthur Miller wrote, there is violence because we have daily honoured violence. Any half-educated man in a good suit can make his fortune by concocting a television show whose brutality is photographed in sufficiently monstrous detail. Who produces these shows, who pays to sponsor them, who is honoured for acting in them? Are these people delinquents, psychopaths sinking along tenement streets? No. They are the pillars of society, are honoured men, are exemplars of success and social attainment. We must begin to feel the shame and contrition we have earned before we can begin to sensibly construct a peaceful society, let alone a peaceful world. A country where people cannot walk safely in their own streets has not earned the right to tell other people how to govern itself, let alone to bomb and burn the people. The honouring of violence is recorded in the parent of our little children. This gives permission to the rage and hatred present to the child of any person. The combination is a death sentence for our culture. There are 6,500 murders per year committed in the United States compared with 30 in England, 99 in Canada, 68 in Germany and 37 in Japan. More than 2 million guns were sold in the United States during 1967. During the first 4 months of 1968 in California alone, 74,241 pistols were bought legally. President Johnson charged his new crime study commission to look into the causes, the occurrence and the control of physical violence across this nation, from assassination that is motivated by prejudice and ideology, and by politics and by insanity, to violence in our cities, streets, and even in our homes. The violence in our homes is the most significant violence of all. This is the child who commits murder. Where's just the child lean? Every day, 1 or 2 children under 5 years old in the United States are killed by their parents. According to Drs. Ray E. Helfer and C. Henry Kemp of the University of Colorado, who are reporting their findings in a book, The Battered Child, the infanticide rate is greater than the combined total taken by tuberculosis, whooping cough, polio, measles, diabetes, rheumatic fever, and appendicitis. In addition, every hour 5 infants are injured by their parents or guardian. One of the problems involved in trying to find a solution to the problem, Dr. Helfer said, is finding psychiatrists to treat the parents. However, parents were cited as a solution in a Gallup poll conducted today Senator Kennedy was shot. The responses indicated the first solution to the violence problem would be stricter gun laws, but in addition, a majority of those polled wanted stricter law enforcement, remove programs of violence from TV, improve parental control, including courses for parents on how to rear their children. The Institute for Transactional Analysis in Sacramento has offered such courses since 1966. Several hundred parents have attended. The 8-week courses have begun with an explanation of parent, adult, child. The faculty has included psychiatrists, probation officers, ministers, pediatricians, educators, psychologists, and an obstetrician, all using the same language. Parent, adult, child transactional analysis has been applied to the following subjects: the dilemma I want to trust in but, producing change in the youth offender, computing moral values, the relationship between freedom and love, problems of underachieving and handicapping, crisis intervention, why children play stupid, rescue and repair of poor students, building healthy attitudes towards sex and marriage, and emotional control. These courses have helped good parents become better parents, and have helped to rescue and repair troubled families. After completing one of these courses, a mother wrote the following: "This course has been the best thing that has ever happened to us. It's opened a new line of communication between my husband and myself, and I feel that I personally benefited from it greatly. People I work with have constantly told me what a different person I have become since starting the course. One woman tells me, 'God bless your adult.' We also see what our problems is with our daughter and feel that we can certainly work it out ourselves. Knowing how to stop violence in the home is knowing how to stop it in society. Our captains of industry, our advertisers, and our producers of entertainment must learn the same thing. These parents learn. Efforts in the home are undermined by the persistent input of contradictory data from without. My 10-year-old daughter asked if we could go see Bonnie and Clyde. I said no, it was full of violence, and I did not like the way it glamorized some very sordid individuals. It was somewhat hard to explain a few days later why Bonnie and Clyde was repeatedly mentioned during the Academy Awards." Now, I haven't seen that film. However, I'm pretty certain that Bonnie and Clyde were like a husband and wife robbing duo that killed people, I think, for money. I don't really know. But I'm pretty certain they've done something like that anyway. I believe people who have capitalised on violence have taken comfort from the point of view certain psychologists have held that watching violence is a safety valve which helps persons drain off violence rather than act it out. There is no way to validate this point of view. I believe there is mounting evidence, in fact, to invalidate it. These psychologists hold the view that feelings accumulate as if in a pail, that every so often must be emptied. It's more accurate to think of feelings as a replay of old recordings which can be turned off at will. We do not have to go around dumping our feelings, we simply turn them off. Keep them from flowing on our computer and can instead fill that computer with something else. Hampton said, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." In another age when the world was filled with political murder, the selling of people into slavery, the crucifixion of innocent men, the killing of infants, and the cheers of entertainment moguls waving over the blood in the arena. Rising Goodman wrote to a little group of people in Philippi. I don't know what that means, but okay, well, that could be a town or something. Oh, okay. It's a little note here. This is Paul's letters to the Philippians in the Bible. Chapter 4, verse 8, I think it's trying to say. Really showing off my Bible knowledge here, aren't I? Where were we? And now, my friend, this is the quote below. And now, my friends, all that is true, all that is noble, all that is just and pure, all that is lovable and gracious, whatever is excellent and admirable, for all your faults with these things. We can hate evil so much that we forget to love good, and there is much that is good in America, and much that in the years past has inspired the admiration of people throughout the world. Much that has drawn the oppressed from other shores. In 1950, Charles Mallet, the then Lebanese ambassador to the United Nations, said, "When I think of what your, as in America's, churches and universities can do by way of mediating love and forgiveness, imparting self-restraint, training the mind, revealing the truth, when I observe what your industries can accomplish by way of transforming this whole material universe into an instrument which will lighten the burden of man. When I ponder what your homes and small communities can create, by way of character and solidity and stability and humour, and when I reflect on the great media of the newspaper, the cinema, the radio and television, now you can immensely help in the articulation of the American word. When I humbly and concretely think of these things, and when I further mediate that there is nothing that will prevent all these entities from dedicating themselves to truth and love and being, then I say perhaps the day of the Lord is at hand. The only thing that may prevent this dedication is fear of other persons on this earth, fear in the child, which will drain our resources for good into an everlasting battle that we mistakenly think we can win." I think he's trying to say you do great things, but you also do some shitty things out there. I think. I don't really know. I mean, I suppose really I'd have to do some research on the guy himself, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, if you really want to know, so you can probably look him up, but you can probably look this whole. You can pretty much get most of the stuff on the internet now. All the basics, anyway. Alright, let's get to it. Winners and losers. Hamlet's alternatives were to be or not to be. Our national alternatives are believed to be to win or not to win. The struggle against world communism. To win is more important than to be, it would appear, in view of the increasing risk of the final armed aggression that will lead to global incineration. Well, luckily we haven't reached that point yet. A Vietnam village is shelled so thoroughly that when troops finally enter it, there is nothing standing and no one living. The commander of an operation of this sort is quoted as saying, "We had to destroy them to save them." I wonder if that's a real quote. I really hope not. But I know that's what people believe at the time, so. Not that I'm justifying it, of course, because, you know, crimes against civilians are crimes against civilians. And if there is a greater power, then hopefully there be answering to them at the end. I mean, imagine going up to heaven and saying, well, you had to kill those people, and then they say, really? And then send you right down. I hope that's where those people are now. Because there's no excuse for doing that to people, regular people. I know a lot of people will say, well, sometimes you have to do this, sometimes these things happen, but ask yourself this. If it was someone you loved who suffered from something like that, would you still have the same feelings? Would you dismiss it so easily? I don't think you would. I know I wouldn't. Back to the book. This sounds very much like the parent pronouncement which came ex cathedra from the woodshed. This hurts me more than it hurts you. Can we really say the destroyed village littered with its charred inhabitants? This hurts us more than it hurts you. How do the people of North and South Vietnam really see the democracy the Americans extol and insist is best for them? Do they like it? Do they understand it? Do they judge our free way of life by what they are going to see going on in our country? Do they believe we really love the non-Caucasian Asians and fear the racial strife in America? We say democracy is delicious in the same way that Mother said spinach is delicious. It isn't. It really isn't. Although you could probably say that about pretty much every green vegetable out there, they're not delicious. They really aren't. We are not allowed to report the evidence of our taste buds. In many similar transactions, we are forced to mistrust our own senses and not acknowledge our own emotions. Was Mother really that enthusiastic about spinach herself? How enthusiastic are we about our democratic institutions? Democracy is a good thing, but is violence and war the only way we can establish its goodness? I would say no. Ideas can often be spread by simply interacting with people from different places. course, that doesn't work. I'm not saying that, you should just let bad people do bad things, of course. I'm not saying the world should have just let, Hitler and Imperial Japan do what it did without doing anything, of course. I'm not. I'm just saying sometimes you don't need to fight, and sometimes you can spread ideas simply by talking to people. So as I said before, we're all pretty much the same. All around the world, we are all pretty much the same. Democracy is delicious, and this hurts me more than it hurts you, are both extremely dangerous international games in that they are ulterior to the real motive, which is we must win, or if we do not win, then we lose. Are winning and losing the only options for persons or for nations? The only way to stay a winner is to surround oneself with losers. Winners and losers have both been the only models we have had. When the primates were driven from their forests by the climatic changes that reduced the size of its forests, there were only two possible outcomes to their encounter with the old-time carnivores on the open plain. Those who won the battle over food survived, those who lost died. It is true that religious and political leaders have emerged from time to time with what they claim to be a new model. Yet for the most part, the idea of these dreamers and prophets have been discounted as utopian, otherworldly, and impossible. The fact is that the winning and losing models have predominated throughout the history of mankind. But circumstances have changed. Because of scientific knowledge, enough food can be produced to feed the people of the world. The population explosion can be halted. I'm not going to tell them. Science has also made birth control possible. It is now possible to conceive of another option. I'm okay, you're okay. Coexistence is at last a possibility based on reality. In the beginning, man's brain grew and developed in service to his own survival. Can we now turn the brain to new tasks, to the task of survival of all the people of the world? Can the gift of life and our brief span of existence on this earth be enjoyed to the fullest of human spiritual capabilities? If we see that I'm okay, you're okay at last within the realm of possibility, do we dare look for change? Something new under the sun? Something to stop the violence threatening to destroy what has taken millions of years to build. Tylard stated, "If a nation is closed to our demands for futurity, in which case for the fruit of millions of years of effort is stifled, stillborn, in a self-abortive and absurd universe, or else an opening exists. We believe we have found an opening. The opening will be explored not by a nameless corporate society, but by individuals together in that society. The exploration can be made only as individuals are emancipated from the past and become free to choose either to accept or reject the values and methods of the past. One conclusion is unavoidable. Society cannot until persons change. We base our hope for the future on the fact that we have seen persons change. How they have done it is the good news of this book. We trust it may be a volume of hope and an important page of the manual for the survival of mankind." And that, people, is where the book ends. Cross look. It's just onto the index now. Now, admittedly, this book took a very long time. A very long time. But you know what? I think it was worth it. Because I got to practice my speaking. I still need to practice helping a selfie stick still between my legs, which is what I'm currently doing. And what I've done for most of the videos on this playlist thing. So, what have you learned? Or even better, what have I learned? I have learned that my adult doesn't do a lot. I've learned that my child dominates most choices. My parent watches on and disapproves. That's an easy way to describe my life in terms of the book. And there will be another book. I appreciate that these were not the most popular videos I've ever done, which is fair enough, I think. But there will be more, because I think it's good practice and it gives me an excuse to read these books at the same time. It really does. Anyway, this is it for me. This is it for the book. I'll hold it up so you can have a look at it. I don't know if I'll hold it there. See, you can see the author as well. Is that the author? Yes, it is. Of course, there is a link to the book in the description, so you can have a look and roughly across. I don't know if that link still works, or if it is even a link to buy the book, but you can see the book. Look it up on eBay or any other second-hand places. So I doubt you'll be able to get this book brand new now. But this copy's out there. I mean, I got this in a charity shop. I forget how much I paid for it. Probably £1. Here, there's a price in the first page. No, it's not one. But anyway, it was probably £1, maybe 2 at the most. What am I reading next? Well, I'm not sure yet, but you'll know pretty soon because the video will be uploaded soon enough. So, until next time, I'm James. Thank you once again for joining me on this journey because I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all take care of yourselves, okay? Bye.